So now let's move on to pipelines. So within a project, you might have multiple different pipelines, and you will want to sometimes have different pipelines based on specific parameters or specific configurations. At the very basic level, since a pipeline will always have a single schedule, it's best to categorize and group your tasks and your assets and everything based on the pipeline schedule. So since you're going to be scheduling the pipeline and setting up the connections and setting up some default configurations, you can think of that as the parameters that are necessary for you to group everything together. And it will make more sense once I show you an example here, but let's go ahead and take a look at this pipeline that I have. It's some New York City taxi data. So if we look at the pipeline YAML file, and that's going to be one of the key components of a pipeline, is the pipeline YAML file that lives in the parent pipeline folder. So in this case here, I have this pipeline here, and in the folder, I have the pipeline YAML file. And for example, in another pipeline at the pipeline folder, I have the pipeline YAML file. So each pipeline is separated by a folder and a pipeline YAML file that explains what is that pipeline, what is the schedule, what are the connections, and what are the variables that we're using there. So taking a look at this New York City taxi pipeline, I define the name of the pipeline, and then I set a schedule. So the schedule can be either a cron expression, or you can just say monthly, daily, hourly, something like that, and Bruin will automatically know how to run it according to that. You have some other parameters. I won't go through. There's a whole list of different parameters and variables that you can define inside the pipeline configuration. But one key thing is the default connection. So even though we defined our connections at the project level, you will want to essentially say which ones of those connections am I actually using in this pipeline. And the reason for this is that these secrets, these credentials are initialized when you create a new pipeline run. And if you have, let's say, your project grows, you have dozens, if not hundreds of different connections and secrets, you don't want to initialize all of them because it can be a security issue or it's just unnecessary at the very least. So you want to only expose the connections and the secrets that are necessary for this pipeline. This is especially important across when you have a big organization, you have multiple teams, and you want to only expose certain environments, certain credentials to certain teams. And this way you make sure that the credentials from one department are not shared with another department, for example. The other thing that you can also define in a pipeline at the pipeline level is some custom variables. We will come back to this later, but just something to keep in mind for now. So let's go look again at our project here. So we have, just to recap, at the root directory, we set up our project configurations, and then we have a pipeline. And at the pipeline level, we set up the schedule, the connections, and now we move on to assets.